But the more important point I think I'd make is when you're dealing with something like marriage, male-female marriage, which has been around in all states in this country since the Constitution was first adopted, was in all states in this country at the time the post-Civil War amendments were adopted. I don't think you need to even get to the standards of review that lawyers can get tangled up in. By the idea that traditional marriage has been unconstitutional since 1868, I think is far-fetched. Now, let me be clear. We need to distinguish constitutional views from policy views, and there's a robust debate going on in this country about whether states and the federal government in its realm should redefine marriage to include a right to marry a person of the same sex. That's a proper discussion and debate to go on. My view about the Constitution is it doesn't speak one way or the other to the question of same-sex marriage. It leaves the matter to the political processes for decision. It's permissible for the people to retain traditional marriage laws. It's permissible to revise them. But I think when you look, again, at the history of marriage in this country, the idea that judges now are going to play around with these levels of scrutiny and determine that something that is so clearly established everywhere as constitutional, as accepted, is now suddenly going to be thrown out the window. I think there's something wrong with standards of scrutiny if we wield them in that way. I'm simply making the point that there is a bit of a judicial power grab going on. The courts have been very reluctant, as they should be, to use heightened scrutiny. Now, we haven't, we've been talking for several minutes now about these cases without discussing at all what marriage is, what the purpose of marriage is, and why it exists. And if we look at those fundamental questions and then think about the standards of review, I think the answers become quite clear. Why did marriage develop in this society and elsewhere in the world? Marriage exists in order to channel the procreative capacity of opposite-sex couples in order to find a way to raise and civilize the little barbarians that come out of the womb and transform them into productive citizens. That is the primary mission of marriage. It is the reason that marriage exists. It explains why the male-female component of marriage has always been at its core. That can be changed. Again, I think it's constitutionally permissible to change it. But once you understand that and see that that is what is at the core of marriage, I think the case becomes very easy. I mean, why we cannot, in our different states and in the federal realm through Congress decide and revisit over time how we ought to address this. I mean, that is what I think a constitutional republic is all about, not thinking that judges have the authority willy-nilly somehow to impose their own view and upset the central social institution of American society. That very question that the court is deciding is, when do you remove something from the ordinary democratic processes? When do you have the court intervene on behalf of this politically powerless group? Well, I think any realistic assessment of political power in this country now shows that gays and lesbians have, it's a credit to their lobbying, the case they've made, they've amassed tremendous power. The Human Rights Campaign, I think, has been ranked as the second most effective lobbying organization. You see how the Obama administration has basically been bent to do the will of the gay and lesbian groups in the DOMA case and Don't Ask, Don't Tell. As
Prop 8 too, they came in Prop 8 too.
Absolutely. As Paul Clement summed it up in his brief here, he says that gays and lesbians are one of the most influential, best connected, and best organized groups in modern politics and have attained more legislative victories, political power, and popular favor in less time than virtually any other group in American history. Now, that's something that gays and lesbians, have good reason to celebrate. But to then come into court here and to claim that they're politically powerless and that they need to have the special benefit of heightened scrutiny, I think that just doesn't wash. Rather than imposing on the country another Roe versus Wade, this is a matter that is being addressed through robust democratic debate. The genius of federalism is things work out so that it satisfies more people's interests more of the time. And more than that, there's just a sense that this has been a fair fight And also, this hasn't come up yet, so let me mention this. The legislative process is also far better at coming up with, say, accommodations, protections for religious liberty, all sorts of compromises than the judicial declaration of a right, which I think it would play out over the decades primarily in attacks on traditional religious believers, deprivations of their rights. For example, can you qualify for a grant or a scholarship? Can you get a government job if you hold this position that suddenly is declared akin to racial bigotry? So I think it would be a very contentious, divisive process.
Mr. Whelan, I pronounced that right, Whelan, for being here. I get the sense, just from seeing the amount of young people in the room, that you may be in the minority. I'm just guessing. But I'm glad you're here because young people really don't see what is the issue.
What is special or unique about same-sex relationships that should preclude the federal government from incentivizing any and every other relationship that can also fulfill that purpose, such as brothers and sisters that want to live together and
Commentators have compared the court's decision this week to decisions such as Plessy and Brown and their significance to the African-American community. How do you think the court will weigh that the legacy of those cases in their decision in the cases this week?
I'd like to just ask Mr. Whelan, we were talking about political power earlier, and the argument was brought up that there are specific classes that have more political power presently but still have heightened protections, such as racial groups. The president is African American, and women who control 20 seats in the Senate, for example, still have heightened protections. Should those protections at some point be taken away when they are deemed to have enough political power?
Thank you all for being here. Some opponents of marriage equality say that same-sex marriage bans aren't discrimination because straight men can't marry men and gay men can't marry men.
That you're segregating our society by saying that just a man and woman can get married, to me is the same argument as I'm starting to using that word. Nazis would segregate society.
Let me answer your.
Can I get the last question? I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut you off because we really do need to get down because the time is up for our television.